This is Paul Fromm with the Canada First Immigration Reform Committee. We have some unfinished business. 6 Canadians were murdered in cold blood in Burkina Faso by a gang of terrorists. And they were murdered not for robbery, they were murdered because they were white and they were perceived to be Christians. We in Canada are supposed to take race and religion very seriously. Racism is bad, bad, bad. Attacking somebody because of his religion, bad, bad, bad. No. Well then, what is the Trudeau government going to do about the murder of 6 Canadians in Burkina Faso? Well, the story briefly was this. These people were all from Quebec with names like Carrier, Chamberlain, Chabot, Bernier, and they were from rural Quebec. They were very religious people. Most of them were educators. They saved up, they raised money to pay their airfare to go over to Burkina Faso for several weeks to do such things as fixing up schools, and orphanages and community centers, delivering powdered milk and school supplies, building a playground. I'll come back to that later. Whether or not that they're well-meaning people. Whether or not that's the wisest use of their time is another issue. But what happened in early January is that there was an attack by an affiliate of Al Qaeda, and it's called the Al Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb. Maghreb is that area of North Africa, or AQIM for short. Al Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, and the leader of this group is a hard-bitten Algerian-born jihadist named Mokhtar Belmokhtar. So there's no mystery about who did it. There isn't even any mystery about why they did it. And there was an attack on a hotel, the Hotel Splendide in the capital of Burkina Faso, Ouagadougou, and a neighboring cafe, the Cappuccino. And 3 terrorists, two of them women apparently, burst into the hotel, took a lot of people hostage, shot a lot of people, and kept going back to the cafe where they shot some people, and wherever they saw white people who were still groaning or twitching, shot them again. And in a statement put out by the group, they said that the attack was done to punish the cross worshippers, that's Christians, cross worshippers, for their crimes against our people, and to punish the Europeans. Of the 29 people murdered, 27 were white, 6 were Canadians, 6 were French Canadians. The statement makes it quite clear they were murdered for no other reason than their religion, being Christian, and their race, being European. The other 2 people who died were Burkina Faso security guard who was black. But the main targets were white people killed for their race and for their religion. Now, thank heavens for the French army, which is in the neighboring Mali. They were able to race to the rescue and eventually managed to kill the 3 terrorists. But too late, and save a whole lot of other people, but too late for the 6 French Canadians. As often happens, our government did not respond very well. Frantic family members in Quebec only learned the fate of their loved ones, not from the Canadian embassy, but from religious authorities in Burkina Faso. So, not a very good show. Justin Trudeau, of course, put out a boilerplate statement of regret, and terrorism's a bad thing, and okay, I guess. But the reaction is rather minimal. He's far more interested in cozying up to the Muslim community. There was a memorial for these 6 in Quebec. You would have thought that the Prime Minister, of course, comes from Quebec, might have been at that. Oh no, he was too busy. He was at a gathering with one of his Muslim cabinet ministers in Peterborough, Ontario, where he was denouncing the attack, case of arson back in November at the one mosque in Peterborough as a hate crime. And Trudeau was saying that's not the Canadian way. Well, although the police called it a hate crime, it's now 3 months since, nobody's been arrested, nobody's taken credit for it, and I might suggest there are many possibilities as to what happened at the mosque. One thing, it could be an inside job for insurance. Number two, it could be Muslims from a different faction having an issue with the mosque. It could be some internal dispute. It could indeed be somebody who doesn't like Muslims, and there are probably other possibilities. But why is Trudeau more concerned about that than the death of 6 Canadians, the murder of 6 Canadians by these terrorists? Okay, what can we do? Well, we've apparently asked Interpol to put him on an international warrant for him. Yeah, okay. I suppose if he shows up, if he's dumb enough to show up at Heathrow in London, they might arrest him. That is, assuming he's using his proper name. No. Well, you might say, well, demand that the Burkina Faso government chase him down and capture him and put him on trial. Yeah, the problem is Burkina Faso doesn't really control half of its territory. Much of the Islamic Maghreb is basically up for grabs. This guy, Belmokhtar, has kidnapped and committed crimes in Algeria, where he has a death sentence on his head, in Burkina Faso, in Niger, in Mauritania, and Mali. There's a lot of no man's land there. Okay, what should we do? I'll tell you. What we should do is use our special forces, and I've been told this is doable, in conjunction with the French. The French provide the transportation and some of the logistics and the intelligence. We send our special forces in with a mission: capture Belmokhtar, to put him on trial, and if he doesn't want to come peacefully, no more Belmokhtar. Now that would be a muscular foreign policy where we put Canada and Canadians first. And there's a guarantee, if you mess with Canadians, if you kill them because they're white, you kill them because they're Christians, we're going to come after your sorry rear end. And you know, there's a historical model for that. You probably all remember, at least having heard of, President Theodore Roosevelt. Now, with all the blather about Islam being a religion of peace and all that, people kind of forget that Muslims invaded Europe at least 3 times with armies as recently as the middle of the 18th century, where they were only stopped at the gates of Vienna. For centuries, the Muslim pirates terrorized the coastline, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on the politics at the time of Europe, raiding to steal, raiding for to take captives, the men to be used as slaves or janissaries, the women to be put into harems. This is until relatively recently. In fact, early in this century, there was still a pirate in what's now Morocco. He was an emir or leader called Razuli. And Razuli was, not to put too fine a point on, was a pirate. And he captured people for ransom. Well, he made the mistake of capturing a man by the name of Petikaris. And he's an American citizen. And when President Roosevelt found out about that, this is what he said in a speech: "I will have Petikaris alive or Razuli dead." But it wasn't just a resolution in the United Nations. He sent the gunboats to Morocco, and when Razuli saw the American might, he handed over Petikaris unharmed. We have got to do the same thing. It's time for us to start punching above our weight one more time in international affairs. We don't seek quarrel with any nation. And Trudeau may be right not to want to continue to bomb in the Middle East. But by God, when people attack and kill Canadians because they're European and because they're Christian, it's time to act, and it's not time for another UN resolution. This is Paul Fromm for the Canada First Immigration Reform Committee.